could you guys give yourself a little introduction to the stream so people can know you better?
Do it
Go,
first,
Alex.
Ula. No,
No,
bro.
you.
No.
Okay. Hi, I'm Ola Andreas. I'm the lead producer on the project. So working closely with Scott, who was on the stream earlier, and the production team, which are great, and the rest of the team in delivering the launch version of the game. That's been my main responsibility now. So, yeah, that's me.
Hi, Ula. Hey. So my name's Alexander Shemeko. I am a, what's the title? Expert designer at the company, but realistically means I've just been here for a long time and I wear many hats. The latest hat has been the running the combat team. How long has it been now? Like 16 years of Funcom, along those lines. Yeah. So it's been a hot second. It's been good. It's been good. It's been good fun.
So you're a man of many titles, and I was told you're the lead combat designer. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. Like I run the combat team as the product owner, which essentially means the decision making, the direction that is. The directors have a vision for the game, and that vision is translated to mathematics experiences and everything else that needs to be made together to make a game, and then that's actualized by the line developers.
Nice. Okay, and then here's an important question. Are you guys sporting normal shoes or toe shoes like Joel?
I'm barefoot. I'm standing on a standing mat right now.
Nice. I love that.
Your fancy slippers, man. Yes.
That was
Slippers, yeah.
My whole stream was sitting there trying to figure out what Joel was wearing, and the fact that he showed that is hilarious. Okay, well, this is perfect because I do want to talk about combat, and I know my stream wants to talk about combat too. So I do have a set of questions, which I'm going to refer to, but I'm also going to just like randomly sometimes throw in a curveball that might seem like interesting. Yeah, just like that's just kind of the way I think we're going to do this, just because, I don't know, it'll feel more authentic, and like chat has some really good questions, and we're probably not going to get through them all at all. But to kind of start us off, question for you both is, were you guys on the team working on Conan, or are you guys here for Dune?
I wasn't. I came on board for Dune, but Alex, you can explain.
I was, yeah. So I was on Conan when Conan was a first-person survival game trying to figure out what it's trying to be. And I was I helped make about maybe 85% of the combat system, not the heavy mathematics of the code side, right? Because I don't know if you had a chance. A lot of Conan is based on 4.16, if I remember right, or 4.14 Unreal, and it's very much blueprint driven. So there was a lot of good learnings, a lot of good very rapid iterations.
That was going to be my question. Like, that's why I want to ask you guys if you worked on it, because like I was a huge fan of Conan. Obviously, Conan had a little bit of a shaky start, but now if you look at Conan now, it's fantastic, right? So I wanted to ask, like, what is something that you learned from Conan that you kind of put into Dune? Like, what did you learn along that way that really helped shape Dune?
I'm going to do this from the gameplay aspect of it. There's like a whole bunch of production side I think Ula can take care of it. But for me personally, from the perspective of gameplay and what players like to do in relation to the fantasy, in relation to how they play the game, what they want to do with their friends and so on, melee games that also have elements of shooting are extremely, extremely difficult. Conan, at its very core, is a game of melee, but also it has elements of shooting. And it never truly landed on a balance that I think people can be comfortable with, in terms of like, it's fair for people that like to shoot and it's fair for people that like to melee. It was never there. Like the meta shifted a lot, so it was never something that we're honestly really happy with. And Dune, with the narrative that it has, with the Holtzman shields and the opportunity that it presents, gave us almost the perfect narrative vehicle and the perfect narrative frame in which to design to actually address that problem in a much better way than we possibly could have, given if we had the Conan intellectual property all over again.
Dope. And question for the producer here, and this is more of a dev question for me, and for maybe any devs in the chat, like, how does the producer, like, how does your two jobs kind of like mix together? Like, how does the producer work with the lead combat designer, you know?
I would say it's very much a yin to a yang. don't you think, Alex?
Oh,
So,
yes, you can be my yang any day.
so Alex comes to me and he says, "Oh, I want to do this, but it's like 1 week until we lock the game, or 1 week until we lock the version." And I'm like, "Oh, but can you really though? Show me, break it down, show me the estimates, show me the actual, like, this is something I can deliver, and then maybe we'll be able to get it in." But my job in the end, or a producer's job in the end, is to try and make the game possible to deliver. So if we see something, or the designers or the developers are calling out something that they want to do and it doesn't fit, our job is to make sure that that's surfaced and that's dealt with, so that we can deliver in the end a holistic experience. And yeah, I would say Alex and me are a good duo in that sense. He's very pushy. He wants to get things in. I like Alex because he likes to make the game better.
I feel like
So,
that's as designers do, they're trying to design, right? And you, Alex, you talked about a meta, so that kind of like is going to be an interesting question for Dune here. Is, do you expect a couple questions actually. Do you expect there to be a Dune meta? Question one, and then question two is, do you expect that meta to shift seasonally as you produce more updates and content?
So if we define the word meta as effective ways to play, I would say yes and yes, because there is naturally, in some areas, there's naturally more effective ways to play, right, than other ways. You could obviously be putting yourself in a more challenging situation if you choose not to use a Holtzman.
Yeah.
We don't stop you from using a Holtzman shield, but in some cases, you can get away with it. In other cases, it's just more difficult than it ought to be. Therefore, generally speaking, players will naturally lean towards cost-effective paths of least resistance. So yes, there will be a meta, and yes, we'll try to make sure there's not one meta, but there's many varieties, and that they are as, I don't want to say balanced, but asynchronous. What's that word? Asynchronously balanced against each other as possible, where you have shooting on one hand, in some combinations of melee can counter it, other combinations of shooting can counter that. In group play, things goes completely out of the window, and then you have ornithopters flying by doing dive bombing tactics, right? So
yeah,
change.
I'm actually just going off my questions here because now we're talking PvP a little bit. So this is a question that I kind of just came up with right now is for me personally, how do you, in your head, have you already determined how deep desert PvP is going to play out between ground infantry, between ornithopters, assault in the sky, carriers, sand crawlers? Have you already played that out in your head, or are you more so giving the players the tools and you're going to let the players kind of create their own sandbox and figure it out from there?
So the answer is yes, we have a theoretical model of how things are going to play out, just based on raw limitations, right? Like there's 100 people per grid. We're going to split it between two factions, so that's 50, including soft caps. That's going to be about maybe 40 maximum per faction. If you count in guild sizing, which is 36 per side, then that gives you an even lower limit. So there's an automatic number scale there. 4-person to party, meaning that our ornithopter combat probably should be balanced around 4 people, because you ought to be able to see each other as you dive bomb the same target. So there's a natural numbering, a natural flow, a combination of amount of people that not only can be in the same space, but can realistically interact with each other in a meaningful way, right? Like I think very recently, we only got the friend or foe identifiers on your party mates. Eventually, they'll also go to vehicles, and all of a sudden, you can see like, oh, hey, there's Jon Snow, there's Batman. We're about to dive bomb this building over here. And us, from the point of view of designing and balancing the TTK time to live, what do we want? Do we want to say that, hey, it takes a group of 4 ornithopters, 1 flyby with a full dump of rockets to down that target, or is it 2? Or is it 1.5? Or is it 3? And then is that then fun, right? So we have a rough understanding of, we feel that most combat's going to be happening in vehicles, especially aerial vehicles, until it devolves into the ground fighting, where people try to egress into base and then egress out again once they've found their loot. Obviously, because it's such a big space, there are some things that simply cannot be, well, they could be theory crafted out, but realistically, past a certain point, it doesn't make sense. So we need to give players the space to tell us how it's actually going to play also, so that we can proceed to back and forth co-op dev is a big word here, back and forth co-op dev to land the experience where everyone is happy, because the game is meant to be an approachable sandbox on a sandy planet. We need to find a place where everyone theoretically can enjoy the experience, whether you're solo or whether you're running a 36-man crew trying to control all of the North Deep Desert.
Just gonna quickly add something. You said 36 players per guild. It's 32.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
Yeah, stuff's
And I
changing
think-
all the time.
Yeah. But I think the word intentions is like there's design intentions, right, from the designers, and they're going to be tested when we meet launch, and that's where we need to also react and adapt, and that's going to be interesting for us because we have seen this in the beta that we run, but when we let everyone in on this,
Oh yeah.
they're going to find some new metas, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of going to be my next question here. And this is, you kind of touched on it a little bit, but I'm curious what your take is going to be here. Obviously, you have closed beta test, and you can test that to a certain limit, but the true limit is going to be unlocked when it goes live. So when the server goes live, I play games like this all the time. This is like one of my favorite genres of all time, which is why I'm looking forward to this game so freaking much. The one thing that ends up being a complete disaster, and it's in every single game, every single time, is I call it the Red Baron. Are you familiar with Red Baron? No. Okay.
I'm thinking about the quest out of Witcher 3. I don't think so.
I would have laughed if you guys knew what the Red Baron was. Okay, so the Red Baron is basically a large clan that dominates these kinds of games, and they dominated in Atlas, they dominated in Last Oasis, and they basically join a game like this to take over the server in terms of 200-300 players.
Oh, I got you.
So it's basically a giant Zerg, and I mean a coordinated Zerg. Not just like, 300 people figure it out. No. These guys, they've been doing this a long time. They do it to every single game. So how I said, you touched on this before, you said each grid only has 100 players. So that's kind of like a soft way of dealing with it. But the general question is, how are you going to deal with a Zerg of 200 to 300 coordinated players taking over the deep desert?
So the short answer of it is that there are factions. You are either a Trades or Harkonnen. That 100 pop limit is going to be split. If you imagine the deep desert, it's 3x3, right? Each of those, if I remember, Ola, correct me please if I get something wrong. Each of those is 100 each for a total cap of 300 in the whole deep desert. So if you jam pack, and assuming that we don't do login buffer, log out buffer, assuming you jam all of that, at maximum 3 squares can be locked out in terms of population. Those 3 squares are still split across the 2 factions, right? So if we say our tech, the server tech, gets good enough to run a 100-man square with good efficiency where people can play and not frame like crazy, assuming people don't play like from the bottom of the planet all the way to the top of the planet at 250, 500 ms, it's probably doable. Where we will split it on factions so that if you're playing Harkonnen, you don't get to be friends with the tradies. There's no support infrastructure to prevent that. Like some of the feedback we were getting as well from the internal persistent beta that we have running was that we at a moment had friendly fire mechanics toned down for guild on guild fire. And the player feedback was that you guys are making this too easy because we can just AoE spam down everything. So think about it, right? And we did. We pulled that back. So right now the only friendly fire mechanics we have is on party. So even if you are a 32-man guild, only your party members are not taking ancillary damage from the random stuff going bang. This is really for us to make sure that when you're PvEing together, you can kind of sword fight and not mash your friends with the back of the blade every time you swing in. But in a guild on guild situation, assuming you have full 32-man stacks next to each other, you will still have to coordinate your fire, not to have everything exploding constantly on top of each other. We need to see how that plays out to really know if we want to force more players to split out harder. There are ways to do it. Some of them are more heavy-handed than others. We need to see how people play. But essentially, to go back to the question, the allocation of population count will be split between. This is not like an EVE population system where it's an unlimited. There is a soft faction. We actually have hard factions that you can switch between, but there's a cooldown timer between going between them, and the slots will be allocated to a faction. Therefore, yes, you can, but in theory, the opposing faction ought to have enough slots that allows them to go in and challenge whoever's locking down the grid. yes, big guilds will be advantaged. I used to play EVE Online from '04 to about 2014, so I like putting a lot of super caps on people's faces and making sure they Alt F4 out of the game. So this is absolutely something that we try to control and make a good of an experience as we possibly can for the people involved, both for solo play and group play.
Big Zergs groups like Red Baron, it's going to be a challenge, of course, and we'll need to watch that, and we need to basically react and address it as it if it happens. But as you say, as Alex said, there's some mechanics in the game that is meant, and we talked about it a little bit in this dev stream as well from Joel, are meant to mitigate that. For example, friendly fire being one of them. Then also, you don't really have friendly markers on guilds. They're only limited to a party. So it will require an extreme amount of coordination. I'm sure some people will have the time or the energy to do that. But then in addition, every world will have a max. They will have a number of sieges, right? It's a number of Haga basins, which has a cap. So at some point you will. You will meet a limit of if you're trying to zerg something and you're 800 people, then you're gonna just have fun on your own.
Yeah, I mean, apologies for the heavy hitting questions, but like this, like we just kind of went down.
Like this is why we live for this shit.
Yeah,
these questions are literally the best.
Yeah, like we went kind of down this rabbit hole because like this is the part that really interests me and my community is kind of the deep desert and everything around it.
Yeah.
So to kind of, I'm going one step deeper. So if there's a cap of 100 or so players, would that mean if someone's trying to enter that grid, that sector, they're now in a queue? What does it look like when you're entering?
Exactly. So, Ola, do you want to take this? Because I think you know more about this than I do.
So they're not in a queue per se. So you're talking about hypothetical that probably will happen in some edge cases. I'm sure there will be maybe an edge case where this happen, but this is something that we're gonna. We have some ideas on mechanics even that can prevent this, and I can talk a little bit more about those that we can deploy. But for a grid where it's a player limit of 100, and as Alex said, right now the max limit on Deep Desert will be 300. At launch, we're still discussing if we want to adjust that. If you max out a grid, essentially, we have a lore reason for it, but there will be put down basically shield walls to limit any entering and exiting to a full server. Sorry, any entering to full server, I mean. So, and then the limit of 300 is to avoid being able to be locked out, right? Because you have to enter and exit through the south end of it. Obviously, if you really want to, maybe there is somebody who might be able to find ways to really make this painful. But then again, we can apply different world mechanics that can mitigate this. For example, in a crowded zone or in a crowded server, we can apply some additional sandstorms to make sure that we make it really hard, or additional basically gameplay mitigations to make sure that it hurts to be a Zerg and try and populate massively group in a certain location.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's actually, I didn't even think about that, but that's a really good idea. Like imagine a grid is capped and it's a fight that just has been going on for so long. Just forcing a sandstorm to happen will really shake it up, because now people are gonna have to fly out. Some people might stay in because there might be loot to be had. Some people need to pull their sand crawlers out. That's super interesting. So would that mean if you say that kind of the Emperor kind of puts up a grid, would that mean from a third person perspective you can see the grid and you can tell that there's a 100-player fight happening in that sector?
If you go close enough, not super close, but if you go close enough, you will see the grid. Yes, you will see that it's locked down basically. Interesting.
In a way, that's actually really good. I feel like you are like that will combat the Zergs, because let's assume you have a 32 guild. You're going to go in, you're going to do your spice operation, and that's already 32 people in one grid. They might come in with, let's say they come in with 70, right? Chances are another guild might come in. It might be a three situation where they actually, the Red Baron won't come all in, right? Somebody else is going to come in with their guild. They'll be like 20 people, and then they might come in with their 30, 40 or whatever, and then boom, it's capped out, and now you just duke it out. That's actually a really good way to kind of solve that. So honestly,
And then
you
in
answered my
addition, you have
questions.
the friendly fire and the friendly markers, and then we
Yeah.
can put the gameplay mechanics on top of that to punish the or not punish necessarily, but make it
Incentivize the opposition.
Incentivize, yeah.
yes, and make it more difficult to crowd control an area.
Yeah, I mean, you answered so many questions too, in the sense of like, if you wanted to talk about server performance, the performance is going to be locked, so now you won't have to deal with like with these other games when people would come in and there would be no cap, they'd come in and it would lag out the server. That's not going to happen because the grid's locked down, and now you're just in a battlefield and you got to finish this out or get the heck out.
That's the idea. Yes. So we tried
that's
to think
perfect.
about this. Yeah.
Obviously, you're working with the technical boundaries that you have, right? In a perfect world, everything would be seamless, but it's, not a perfect world.
So that tech doesn't exist in any game, anywhere.
I know. That's kind of what my next question was going to be, since we talked a lot about Deep Desert and like how griefing might go and how zergs might go. Was there any like major features that you guys couldn't implement during development because the technical limitation was too high that you wish you could have, that maybe you might come back to? What kind of road bumps, speed bumps did you guys hit along the way that you were just like,
I'm gonna
man?
leave the horse for Ula here in a second. I'm gonna take the smaller one. For me, the smaller one that I'm a big enjoyer of vehicular shooter games. Like, I'm a big lover of World of Tanks, and back in the day, back Mecha Warrior for Mech 3 as well. I'm showing my age, but I'm a big enjoyer of vehicular shooter games. The one thing that I am quite, we will get there eventually, but vehicle AI was something that we really, really wanted, but it was quite hard to get NPCs to drive, to fly, and to actually challenge players in a meaningful way, right? It's just one of those things where, like, we have our multifaceted combat system, stuff on the ground, then you get into a car, you get into a thopter, there's another vehicle that I'm not going to name the name of, but there's another vehicle where you could send really big darts against other really big things, and you could like burrow through their shields and go, poof. Eventually we'll come back. Let's see when. But we just, like, that vehicle AI thing was just more than we could chew off. So we had to park it. It's gonna. I want to see us try. I really do want to see us try.
That's awesome.
Not sure which horse you were talking about, Alex, but yeah, there was no horses in the pipeline when we
Only donkeys.
Only donkeys in skill suits. But yeah, no, I mean, it's when you're working on a game, there's a ton of things you really want to do, and the beautiful thing about a game like Dune, or like a game like we're making, it's that it's a live game, so we can keep adding those in after launch, right? At some point in a game production, you have to say this is the game we're making. But yeah, I mean, Alex mentioned it. We wanted to get the tank in there. We didn't find a good enough role for it, but we have an idea for when we can bring it back, and it's going to be cool, because then we can make that fit into a larger picture. And I'm not gonna necessarily talk about what that is yet, but yeah. And then obviously there's I don't know if I want to say there's anything I'm like sad that we didn't get in, because for me it just adds to the 10-year roadmap that we have for the game, that allows us to expand on it and build upon it, so we can deliver a holistic experience for launch, and then we have a ton of good things in the backlog that we can pull from. And all yeah.
Sorry, go on, Ula. I was going to jump in, bro.
No, go for it.
Yeah, so the horse that I was talking about is obviously like this. The Deep Desert is, for the engine that it runs on, it is just not designed for that thing, right? It's not designed like PlanetSide 1, PlanetSide 2. It's meant to be running your small instanced 16-on-16, 8-on-8 games, right? Not having 300 people potentially flying around going blap blap at each other, right? It's not made for that. There have been many challenges to get that to a state where it's okay, and there's still some shortcomings there's still some shortcuts that we had to take to get it to this stage. And obviously, like Ula's saying, 10-year plan, we're going to keep working on it step by step, getting rid of those shortcomings every day, until ideally it's the experience that people expect, where I see someone, I can shoot them, and then because there's 200 people, I don't know, 5 kilometers to my left, there's like a server that is spawned for me and the person I'm shooting ad hoc, just to offload the 200-man fight that's happening down the road away. So that's the vision. Like, I know I've spoken to our tech crew about that like would love to be there. It's just not quite there yet.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a it's kind of like it's a live game. You guys are gonna be making this for the next hopefully 10 years, right? So it'll only get better. And if there is this plan to make it exist and develop for like as long as 10 years, is there some sort of roadmap that's going to be public, that's going to come? Is there one now?
The only public roadmap we have now is on the Steam page. You can see the different DLCs that we planned for the first year. So there's 3 DLCs mentioned there. They're quite high level and low on detail, but we'll keep adding to that detail as we go. But right now, all of the focus from us on what we're communicating needs to be on launch. And then once we get past launch, and then we will start sharing more of the roadmap. So it's gonna come, yes.
Nice. Yeah, you guys also touched on tanks, which is great because I wanted to mention that like there was tanks in a trailer like 2 years ago, I swear, and I was like, "Yo, there's tanks, that's sweet." And then I don't know if we saw tanks in this 2-hour preview that we just showed. So it sounds like there was something there, but they're gonna come. They're gonna come hopefully soon.
They will come for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. Having more. I love that the game is kind of vehicle based because like when I play Battlefield, for example, that's the first thing I'm doing. I'm jumping in a chopper and I'm gonna sit in that chopper or sit in that plane all freaking day. So the fact that it's
vehicles is such a fantastic thing in our game. I love it because you build it. You played the large beta. I saw you, but it's so cool when you build it piece by piece. And then you build your small little sand bike, but then in the stream, I guess they showed you move on to like the medium ornithopter or the medium-sized one, assault one, and then you move on to the transport one, and then you move on to So it kind of the scale of building a vehicle. It feels very tactile and it feels very physical, and it's a team effort. So it's really cool. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, what's super interesting. So a little piece of info from me here is I actually play on the closed beta NDA build all the time. So this is very, very interesting to have this interview because I actually do know a lot of the answers to this question. So I'm asking you guys, and there's obviously a lot of these like technical details that I don't know, which is super, super interesting. But it's really, really funny to have this interview. It's almost like a conflict of interest, almost in a weird way, because I'm playing there and I know, and I'm trying to like kind of help my community kind of understand how much fun I'm having in this test, So I'm super looking forward to it. So a question for combat, or maybe not even combat, just in general. What kind of learnings did you guys have that you may have added to the launch of the game from all the playtests that you did? Because you did the kind of the open beta. And then you did the tech test. You had a couple tech tests and stuff that were public. So from those public learnings, what kind of did you change going forward into the live game next week?
So I think the biggest thing that's happened recently, the persistent beta that's closed has been running for a while now, right? We've been getting good feedback from it. People have been playing, giving us feedback. Like I sit there, I'm constantly stalking what people talk about, trying to keep my eyes on what's happening as best as I can. The initial, like I would say, the most recent thing, the initial big update to Melee that we did had a few holes that were very, very evident and were very, very quickly caught to the player base, right? Like we kind of knew that it was not in the greatest place, but because like the thing that Ula was talking about, where there's the continuous push and pull about, hey Alex, are you being too risky with what you're asking? Hey Ula, I think the game kind of needs this. I don't think we should fix these bugs. I think we should do this other feature to fix Melee, to stop the stun system so that we can do this and this thing. So we have a continuous backwards and forwards push and pull about, do we stabilize, do we add more features, do we change a feature, what do I get, what can you give me in the amount of time that you have. The beta allowed us to see that we had not truly landed the Melee experience to a state where we're comfortable with it in people's hands. People saw that internally, we saw that externally at the London event as well, like, yeah, this makes sense. Once it was visible and there was enough. This is the other thing I think that honestly I don't know if general public know this about game dev. Game devs read what people say a lot, right? So I try to understand what's going on, and once a situation starts building and building and building, and people start poking holes in this thing and this thing and this thing, eventually there's enough momentum where it's like, hey, Alex, that idea you had, you know what? Let's just do it. Like, I know we're tight on time, but let's see what we can do, right? Which is where we came on with the landing the update to Melee, making sure the triangle was in a better state, trying to actually give players a melee experience with which they could bridge the other two parts of the on-foot infantry gameplay, which is ability play and ranged play.
Nice.
Just want to say, Shroud, because I was in the London event when I watched you getting stun locked, and I was laughing my ass off in pain from watching you, because I mean that was I don't even know what went through your head, but it was pretty funny.
I was in disbelief. I was in disbelief that this is happening to me and this is even possible. And then I obviously, in the back of my mind, knew that like, obviously no one, like, this is not something that is supposed to happen. This probably wasn't even like, this is not even realistic. So the second that happened, I was like, they're fixing that. Like for sure they are.
Yeah, exactly.
And
I said that on the stream with confidence because I knew that internally we had a build with that wasn't a problem, right? But yeah, it's
you guys had already addressed it, and it's just a matter of like, all right, let's just pull this trigger, let's just get it done and just ship it on our build and see how it goes. So yeah, thank God that won't happen anymore, because I mean it was funny, but you know, it was a little goofy as well.
Yeah, but I mean, so the game is so much more than just melee, right? It's like the combat is melee, ranged abilities, vehicles, and then you have building, and you have crafting, and resource gathering, exploring. And then you have the story. There's so much to the game. So I mean, we can always wait for the next thing, but we really needed to also put the large beta out there and see what people think, even if we know that was something that we might get feedback on, and we feel confident because we've kind of addressed it internally. But yeah. I was funny to see that happen live with you.
Yeah.
And now I get to talk to you. That's awesome.
Yeah. No, it was. I mean, it was good. It was good content for me. I loved it. So someone just asked an interesting question, and it's kind of going back to that 100-player cap a little bit. Just one last question, which I probably know the answer to, but I'm curious what your guys' take is on this. So if there's that actual cap where you can, let's say, harvest a spice field, a massive one with your sandcrawler. What if you're the first organized 100 people? So you say, me and my 100 friends are going to take this tile and take this spice. Theoretically, no one else could intercept us. They can catch us on our way out, but they won't be able to come in and stop us in that moment. Is that right?
Yeah. So let me add a bit more precision to that statement as well. So when I say because I saw this scroll through chat here a second ago. So if people imagine we have the deep desert. The deep desert is, I forget kilometer by kilometer, but it's a big map. It is split into threes. So 1, 2, 3 at the top, 3 in the middle, and 3 at the bottom, which is where people enter. 2 men enter, 1 man leave, but that's a different story. Where you come in through the bottom, you go in, and then you have to work your way to the north of the deep desert maps. And each one of those squares is a server that runs a 100-person cap. However, the whole thing, all 9 of them, at maximum will allow 300, which basically means, and the reason that numerical choice is there is that, so then if you have 3 at the bottom, bottom left is a 100 cap, middle bottom is a 100 cap, and then bottom right is a 100 cap when you come in from the south of the map. And then that means if each of those 3 have 100 each, then the whole deep desert is in theory locked out to everybody else. Because if that was not the case, then if you could get, in theory, stranded north, and you wouldn't be able to progress south to egress out of the deep desert.
I see.
Go on, Ulla. I can add to that. So we also designed the deep desert so that the most valuable and like the biggest spice field, the most valuable loot will be at the far north. So if you do that 200 man raid or whatever in the top top north, you will have to
go all the way back,
all of the PvP, and you won't be able to get all the 100 into the same at the same time into the server. So it'll be a risk for you to try and go back. And of course, if you take someone down in PvP, you can loot your stuff. So
that was a really, sorry, I was just gonna say, like, what you reiterated there was really, really good. You explained it kind of perfectly, because before I was under the impression that a tiny tile, one of the 81 tiles was 100.
Oh, no.
No, but you're saying it's split 3 by 3, and each row is 100.
Yeah, I think. Do we have a press release on this?
don't remember if we
I'll have to
a
dig that up.
map
Maybe
on-
it's worth throwing into some of our more communication channels so it's a little bit more visible. But there is, I can see where you're coming from, friend, as well. There is some nuance here where if you have 1,000 friends, and some people do, right? You could, in theory, both go team red and team green. So then, in theory, even so, and this is one of the differences, for example, we have versus EVE Online, where EVE doesn't really have a hard guild faction system, right? Like you soft accept a group that you have standings to, unlike PlanetSide. PlanetSide, you're the red guys, blue guys, or purple guys, and they all just fight each other. For us, it's a hard faction. So if you're Harkonnen, the Harkonnen 100 slots, you only have 50 of those because the other 50 must be allocated to the Atreides because we need to try to make this fair. And then there's some other stuff that's going to be happening where we talked about not ways to punish people for being off faction, but to incentivize them much more strongly to being off faction. So that 100 might get split further down into like realistically like some 30 some per set. We'll see. Eventually it'll get split down to where you have a nice amount of people to play with.
Yeah, I mean, I'm asking a lot of these kind of heavy hitting questions, I think, because I'm coming in with the audience that might stream snipe or whatever. So like there's a world in where a large streamer's a large streamer's playing the game, you accidentally leak where you're at, or you accidentally leak the server or siege that you're at, and then you just get absolutely bombarded. So like I think these systems to understand how they fully work is super important, and also super important that the streamer mode does work and hides all of that information, because leaking your server is going to be really tough for streamers. So I guess the question for that is how does the streamer mode work? Are you guys like kind of putting care into that streamer mode to make sure that all of that server information is actually hidden so we don't accidentally screw ourselves as streamers?
Yeah. It's really good that you're saying that, or asking that question, because we put a lot of effort lately into the streamer mode. There's some more stuff coming. I mean, actually coming from feedback from other streamers, right, like you. And we're trying to take care and make sure that we are avoiding that situation. So yes, there will be a streamer mode in the settings. You can turn it on, and then you won't be able to see which siege you're on or any of that information, your name. We'll also look into hiding information around where you are in the deep desert. But we'll keep adding to it, of course, as well as we go to launch.
Okay. One last question about combat, and then I might go a little bit more wider than that, I guess. One last question about combat would be: is there unique differences in actual combat playstyles between Harkonnen and Atreides? Like, is there special schematics or special unique weapons that only Atreides can get, or only Harkonnen that can shift the battle or the fight in a different way?
No, the factions are purely for aesthetics. It's purely cosmetic variants.
Okay.
One of the things that eventually I'm hoping will become more evident and much more used than I think it is now on the internal beta is a system called the Exchange. So again, to go back to some of the to go back to the lighter side of the discussion, right? Like it is meant to be an approachable game where on net we want players to be able to come in, test the water, see if they like the sand, see if they like the worms, see if they can put up with getting worm death, so on and so forth, before they proceed to go to the deep desert. The Exchange will function ideally as a means of getting players to, for example, if you're undergeared, but you want to go try the deep desert, but you don't really want to do this grind work, or you've been doing another activity, but you don't like activity C, you can go and spend your resources acquired from your previous activity on the Exchange to buy what you need to go try the deep desert. And vice versa, for people that really want to hang out and do the PvP thing, they don't have to do the other X amount of activities that we have or will be adding to the game. They'll just be able to spend their acquired resources from the activity that they like, that they enjoy, and ideally trade that resource into whatever they need to continue doing the other activity that they really like, right? For me, I think that gives us a great way of people to softly get their feet wet and experience the sandy desert from the first time, and then ideally transition to the end game, to the Elder game. And at the same time, give people that, you know what, hey, I need a break from this PvP. I've been going too hard for a week. I'm going on vacation now. I need to ease it back, but I still want to help my friends. I want to build them the Ornithopters. I want to help them get loot. I want to enable them. But my I just don't have time to play 3 hours a day or 2 hours a day, right? So I'm going to instead do this other activity and still contribute.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, when we were looking at on the stream that you guys showed, the Lance Rads, when we were looking at them, they weren't all PvP driven. They were, like you might be a kind of player that is just a pure crafter. You play maybe with a couple friends and all you guys do is harvest nodes, turn it into ingots or whatever, and then make a bunch of buggies or make a bunch of, you just like stack up and you just hoard and hoard and hoard, and then you are going to be the guild's, you're going to be like House Atreides, like contributor. The second something happens where you got to build a buggy or something and you got to donate a bunch of buggies, you're going to be all over it. So that could just be your way to contributing to the greater Lance Rad, which is pretty cool, right? So everyone has their own way to play, which is fun, because I know for a fact, like, I'm going to be all over the deep desert, but I know not everyone's going to do that. That's just not the case. I know I said I was going to go out of the deep desert, but I got roped right back in because I read something from chat. So question here about the weekly wipes of the storm is that new deep desert map that gets wiped and kind of a new map comes in, is that a handcrafted map or is that a procedural generated map? How does that work?
It's a handcrafted map. So there's going to be a world designer building them. We built quite a few already, and we have made basically development tool systems to be able to easier craft them. So at some level, somebody works with the building blocks that are like making a rock island, or we call them content blocks, but like a rock island that has an eco lab, and at that level. And then you will have a world designer at a bit of a higher level, mixing those together, and then deciding also, okay, do we now this week, will there be a lot more radiation, or will this be what configuration, where are the spice fields, which ecolabs are we having? And then on top of that, you'll have the economy team again placing their loot tables and rotations of the resources. So we have quite a few tooling to ensure that we get that variation fairly easily. So basically, the short answer is yes, handcrafted through those tools to deliver a unique experience every week. I mean, it's still a lot of sand and rock, of course, but it'll be a really, really it'll be a unique experience every week that you'll have to go out and you'll have to survey and then figure out, okay, this week there's a cool ecolab there and that drops this very rare, unique loot that we really, really want, and then you want to go there.
Yeah, that leads me to an interesting follow-up. So if that's all handcrafted and there's like, let's say testing, let's just use random numbers here, testing lab 100, right? Would that mean on this week, testing lab, someone found out that testing lab 100's in, and that means the unique best sniper rifle in the game is in, but only for this week, and it will not be in the next week? You'll have to wait for the rotation?
Okay. And it's specifically the schematic that will drop there, right? And the schematic has charges, so you won't be able to make too many of them. So you'll have to go there to secure that one. Mm-hmm. And then the interesting mechanic about schematics, which I also want to mention, is that to learn a schematic, you have to be at your base or at like a location like your base. So even if you find your schematic, to be able to learn it, basically absorb it, you have to get out as well. Out of PvP into a base.
Yeah. I mean, that's super cool. That system leaves, the way I envision this anyway, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the way I envision the deep desert and there's these weekly kind of wipes and rotations happening is like, you might have a certain play style, or you and your group has a certain play style, and you might actually just use, the power of, I guess, just diplomacy and talking to people to gather information, do some intel gathering, and find out that unique is in the game this week. And now you and your buddies are like, we really need this because we missed it last chance. So like, this is your week to play, which is going to be super, super fun. And then since it's all a handcrafted map, you guys theoretically could structure 1 week to be heavier on points of interest, like super heavy. You could put out tons of messaging saying like, this week is, or this month is going to be absolutely jam-packed with so many points of interest and so much content, which is going to be super, super fun.
Exactly. Yeah, you basically nailed it. That's the intention.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I love that Joel said in the live stream that he basically used, like, one thing I love about Joel and him being kind of like the creative director of the project is like, he is not afraid to reference other games that he loves and other inspiration for games, right? And like, Rust is one that he used with these weekly wipes, which is fantastic. So I wanted to kind of ask you guys, in terms of like inspiration from different survival games, what kind of inspo did you guys get or take from in combat or just in general from different survival games?
So let me build up on something as well that you mentioned as well. So I don't know because like how many people have had experience with Funcom, but like Funcom is actually a relatively flat structured company. So the character that you get from Joel is not his character. That's just Joel, right? So when I go complain to him about something, that's how he talks to me, and then I complain to Rui. We all banter and nag each other about stuff that we want to see. That's literally how life works. Like I love coming to the office. It's amazing. Wait, what was the question again? Sorry, I got sidetracked.
The question was like, what kind of inspiration did you? What different games? Survival games and inspo.
So, like, I grew up, man, playing Mech 3, Mech 4. I grew up playing PlanetSide 1 and 2, playing EVE Online until my eyes bled. I had people sending me SMSs at 4 o'clock because we had a fleet up because the Australian time zone is awake and we had to deploy to try to nail them, right? So, for me, that's where I come from. That's why I want to play. That's what I want to see. But also at the same time, I'm an old man now. Like I can't do 3 a.m. SMSs to fleet up again. That's not a thing anymore I can do, right? So one of the things I grew into is realizing that some people can. If they can, we should enable them. And for those that want to, but really don't have the time to, we should also allow them to be enjoyers and supporters of those that can. And this goes back to the deep desert, the cycle, the rotation. This goes back to the exchange. You guys can do the exchange. We can't. I don't have the time to run Ecolab 77 back to back 7 times to get the schematic that I want. I'm just going to go to the exchange, because I've been collecting stones, crystals, whatever else I need. I'm going to trade that to get the schematics that I want so that I can be an enjoyer of this other piece of content, right? So there is a beautiful circle that in theory can be a very, very engaging and very, very polished circle. It just needs attention, love, and tender love and care for the next couple of, for the next couple of time.
I mean, I love that. That's the beauty of like that kind of auction house vibe, right? Like you play your way. If you if you want to be the supplier of tons of iron, I mean, you can do that. You can be the iron guy. Screw it. Do what you want. Sell it, trade, whatever. So a question on the trade post and the auction house is this is going to be a tricky one, I think, of a question, because this is a problem in every game that has trading. Is what are your plans, or how are you going to deal with real money trading? Because real money trading will most likely happen. It always does.
It is difficult, but you need to have both. So the honest answer is you can never truly stop it.
Right.
However, you have to combat it, because it cannot be allowed to run rampant. Otherwise, it's going to ruin the game. It's going to ruin the experience. Like when I know people are MTXing for EVE, I forget what they're called, the thing that gives you time so that you can play for longer. It just gives me a bad flavor in my mouth when I'm playing the same experience, right? Like it's just something that we want to control. It's going to be a combination of both us overseeing what happens, but also the community helping us and highlighting when they see things happen. Additionally, there's economic things that we can do that control the floor and the ceiling so that things don't go completely crazy, because at the end of the day, we're not a subscription game. We're a buy and play and have fun game. If you really like us, go ahead and buy the DLC so we can keep making more DLC, and then you can buy an expansion pack for us as well, right? That's the plan. Everything in between, we will just try our best to see how we can address, with the combination of oversight from the line of dev, from customer support, and as much as we can get support from the actual community to help us steer us in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, that's the most honest answer you could have had, because like in truth, you're right. It's an endless fight. It's just like, me being a competitive shooter player, you're going to deal with cheaters. You're probably going to deal with cheaters in this. RMT and cheaters, you can't truly win, but your goal is to just be in line with the community. The community talks to you, you talk to them, and you just start, don't be afraid to ban, I guess. Just ban, keep fighting.
Exactly.
It's tough. That's tough.
Constant fight for sure. But yeah, we'll be on top of it from our side at least. We'll pay close attention to it.
I love that. Okay, so I gotta. We're gonna move to some lighthearted questions because I know we're kind of nearing time here. So, like, what would be what would be some of your guys' like favorite things or most proud of things that you guys have made or worked on in this game? Like, what are you most proud of that you touched in Dune?
Would you like to go first, Ulla?
Well, as a producer, I don't necessarily work that much directly on things, but I have done a couple of things. But I mean, I'm generally, as a producer, I'm very proud of what the team has achieved. Like that's the angle I'm coming from. That we've actually managed to put together something that feels like a holistic, really cool experience, a survival game that really feels Dune. And that's something I'm really proud of. It feels like a Dune game first and foremost, with survival at the core. And then I guess what I'm really proud of, we talked about it earlier in the office today, actually, because we were playing through it, is um, in the large beta, the players got access to the first 20 hours. And on story, it's quite light, actually, on the story side in the first 20 hours. There's still lore in there. You meet NPCs that you talk to, and they feel like they belong in Dune. But then once you start going further and further, there's some really cool stuff on the story side, and we were talking about it earlier today. We saw some of the in the dev stream. There was a map called the Waterfat or the Waterfat Mansion, and it's like a single player or like an actual story mission set in the game, and we have multiple of these with really good cinematics, voice acting, and that makes me really proud because it's the 21st hours of the game is just the start, and I'm really excited to see what people do. I'm gonna drop one thing that I'm proud of that I actually did myself, and some of the coders on the team had to clean up after me. But the trade post stores actually close when there's a sandstorm. That I actually did.
Love it.
So let me actually say something, bro, because I think, again, behind the curtain, right? Like, I don't know how many people have worked in a 400-man company where all of the people are actually highly, highly creative and on a personality spectrum all the way over there to 2 kilometers over that way, right? Like the amount of different people, cultures, and everything else that we have working together, honestly, it's challenging, right? Like Ola Andreas here manages my extreme knee-jerk reactions, right? Like, but not only me, but like also everybody else. I think there were some questions here in chat that are a little bit like, I didn't quite like it. Like, the reason producers exist is because they enable people to work together collectively in a direction. And it's because people are so creative and have such strong personalities that often clashes, right? Like, I think unless you've worked in a 400-man company or even a 30-man team, it's very, very difficult to see or to understand the interpersonal challenges that can arise, right? Like, this is why you need to have someone that just gets people to be on track, like, remember the mission, remember the mission, remember the mission, get the thing and get out, right? Not more than that. For me personally, I honestly, at the beginning, for me, Dune was something that was written in the 60s and 70s, right? Like, I was never a big fan because I'm just not that, like, I didn't read the books. I read everything that came after Dune. So when I started reading it for the game, it was a bit dated. It's like it was written you way back when, right? So having Joel talk me through, because like he's so deep in this, it's quite shocking. He's so deep in the lore and narrative that having him walk you through the steps and explain the reasoning behind everything, and then explain how the technology works, because we can't just magic away Holtzman shields or lasers. We have to solve it, right? Having him talk you through the steps and explain to you, like, this is because of that, that is because of this is because of this, therefore consequence, and this is the frame, Alex, that you need to be designing in. Us designing a game that really keeps as true as it does to the narrative and the fiction and the world of Dune, for me, I think is honestly not something that I thought we could achieve without really having to break a couple of the key rules. I think we did wonderfully. The fact that Holtzman shields are almost the perfect narrative vehicle for the challenge of interplay between melee and ranged. That we have the worm that is a natural land monster that it's like a god entity that you can't touch, right? Like the server infrastructure, the way we structured the world, where we can have many Haga basins connected, not connected to each other, but like instance onto each other that connect to one deep desert, that connect to a few of the hubs, and how people can move in between them. And then the learnings from Exiles, where the community was too segregated over the different maps that we released. So one of the big things that we want to do is to make sure that when we come into this game, we're like, you know what? Let's keep the community a community. Not people that play map A or B or C, but like just mesh them in together. And like where we landed, I think the connection of the narrative, the tech, and the gameplay, like some of the gameplay can be more polished. It absolutely can be. Some of the AI can absolutely be better. We will get there. But the fact that it's landing together so well and not completely trying to be something else other than a Dune game, I think is a wonderful, wonderful thing. I'm very, very happy that we managed to land.
I love it. Honestly, I feel like that's a great, absolute killer way to kind of end this interview, because I could sit here and literally fire questions all night, but I don't want to take up any more of your guys' time, because I know you guys, it's probably late over there, huh? So
like nine,
yeah, no, seriously, I could do this all day. You guys are an absolute treat to talk to. I mean, I feel like everybody that I've talked to at Funcom has been fantastic and just so open to talk, open to feedback, open to everything. So if you guys just carry that kind of momentum into the community, I mean, you guys know what you're doing. You guys are going to kill it. So thank you guys both for being here, for doing this interview with me. Thank you guys for being bombarded with questions from me in my chat. I know we went pretty deep there. I appreciate you guys more than you know. Thank you guys very, very much. And if there's any final things, now's the time. I know you guys just kind of let it all out anyway, but you could do it again if you'd like.
I mean, we are just really looking forward to seeing people play the game and see what people react to it. It's all about, that's why we make games, right? We want to share the experience. So, and also I'm going to be watching you as well. It's big fan. It's going to be cool.
Yeah, it's good to be. Thank you for having us, man. It's been fantastic.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much. Have a good one. I could have talked to them all day. I had to cut it. I was going to go to another question. I have so many more questions. I have so many more questions on this monitor. I couldn't do that to them. I couldn't sit there and fire away hours and hours and hours of questions, because I could tell that those guys would sit there until midnight their time. It's 9 p.m. their time. They could easily have sat there till midnight or more and just kept answering. I know they would have. I could just tell in their passion and their emotion, the way they speak, for sure they could have kept going. So I made a hard decision for myself, because I wanted to know more. And I cut it, and I will wait next week patiently to play this game on June 5th, because I'm going to be playing the early copy, of course. That was amazing. That was great. I got a lot of answers there. Like I said to you guys, I do play the closed beta test. I do have an NDA, so I can't obviously talk about that. But there was a lot of questions there that I had no idea the answers. A lot of technical questions, a lot of really deep combat questions. I got to know a lot more about the game. So that was great. I love that.